All right, guys. Good afternoon. My name is Zeeshan Rizvi, and I have Salman Asadullah from Cisco. We are part of Cisco America's partner organization. I'm the open source technical lead, and Salman is a distinguished engineer. Our topic today is to talk about how do you save OpenStack clouds from failing. So, in essence, what we're talking about is that, what we are seeing from our partner interactions with our system integrators, what we're seeing is that the abandonment rates are really higher. The rates at which the cloud adoption, the OpenStack adoption was supposed to be, that's not there. And private technologies, cloud technologies like OpenStack, they're supposed to reverse the cloud workloads from going to public cloud and back to the private cloud, on-premise cloud. That's not happening as fast as we were hoping it to be. In fact, if you look at Cisco's Global Cloud Index, these are the statistics that we have done the survey. Cisco has done the survey across the globe. This is not just Americas, this is across the globe. And it says that 44%, the public cloud workload growth is 44% as compared to 15% for the private cloud. And that tells you a very telling story that there is a reduction by 2019. There will be a reduction of 26% of those cloud workloads that are going to the private cloud. And this is not just us. You can look at the industry, what the industry is saying, right? For example, Packet Networks, they threw away 4 months of their work, right?
Yeah, and basically, some of these learnings, as Zeeshan mentioned about, we work day in, day out with the system integrators and the Cisco partners, and they are basically technology partners working with different vendors. And I see some of the faces over here as well, people we work with. So this is sort of a feedback we are getting, real-time feedback, right? Because they are engaged in some of these deployment projects, these PDI projects with their customers, and this is what they're seeing as well, right?
Yeah. So, and if you want to dig a little bit deeper, right? What are the reasons behind all of this abandonment or less rate of growth, right? This is a study from IDC and Gartner combined together, right? So they have spelled out, what are the reasons people abandon private cloud efforts. And you have on the left-hand side there are details, but I want you to focus on the right-hand side, which is 25% of those issues that they see that they don't want to do a private cloud is technology. 23% are business issues, but more importantly, 42% of them are operational issues. Right? And that's what our focus is. And in essence, what we're saying is that if you have an OpenStack cloud, if you have deployed an OpenStack cloud, that does not mean that tomorrow when you wake up, everything will be hunky-dory. Right?
Right. So you have done the deployment, right? Or if any of the vendor solutions you like, or the open source solutions you like, how are you really going to operate them? That's where the main challenges are coming, and what we are seeing day in, day out as well.
Yeah. If you look at a typical cloud architecture from, this is a very oversimplified view of how a cloud architecture is architected, right? You've got the consumer view on the right-hand side, where the consumers or the app developers or people who are doing dev tests, blah, blah. They don't really care about what is underlying beneath their infrastructure. They just want a pool of resources available to them so that they can develop their application. Whereas on the bottom side, on the orange, right, on the right-hand side, you see there are infrastructure silos. This is the administrator view, right? Somebody who's actually propping up an OpenStack-based cloud, and they want control. They want to make sure that they're following a proper process, but they're doing that in silos. So what we have is essentially an infrastructure which is managed separately in each of those silos. You have a separate silo for networking. The network engineers are only concerned about the IP addresses, VLANs, VXLANs, blah, blah. Compute guys are worried about something else. Storage guys are only concerned about storage arrays, IOPS, so on and so forth, block storage versus object storage. But what we need is transformation of these operations from silos to something which spans across those silos.
Right, and basically, if you go back to the next one, and
oh, sorry, the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of look a little bit deeper, right? That what really means that when we kind of look into the people, processes, and technologies. So you have all of these different things over here, right? The tools all the way down to the matrix. And this is where we'll have to kind of understand that what does it mean when we kind of talk about across the board, not only looking into network or compute or storage.
Yeah.
How are we going to really do this?
Yeah.
So, and the thing is that what we are seeing, and most of you who kind of work in some of these deployments, that each of these silos, they have developed their own in-house tools or multi-vendor technologies or whatever the case is, right? But there's no coordination, right? And if you remember that 42%, the issues were coming in because of this, right? The operational issues.
Yeah.
And so what is really needed is somewhere around like an overarching sort of process from the operational perspective, right? Which are looking into all of these things and kind of providing that overview or that look from the overarching perspective.
Right. So can you go back? So when you move to cloud-based architecture, right, everything is in a unified space. And you cannot afford to have separate tools for just compute and separate tools for networking and separate tools for storage. You need to have a correlation for them, and we're going to do a double click on that in following slides.
Yeah.
So in essence, what we are saying is that we need a different, new, and overarching framework, right? That spans across those silos. Move forward, I guess.
Yep.
But you guys already knew that. Nothing new. Let's talk about in details.
Yeah. So look, if you remember, we kind of talked about tools and matrix and all that list of things, right? And if you this is a very simple example, but you can correlate that this is just a simple analog clock, right? So if you're in a dark room, right, and if you look at the clock and it's telling you it's a 12 o'clock, right? You don't know if it's AM or PM, right? So there has to be multiple things which have to be correlated, right? So the idea is that what are the tools which are basically what are the tools you're going to be using and what matrix you're going to be looking after. So what we are seeing right now from the operations perspective, right? There basically people are still kind of trying to figure out that what are the matrix we need to look for and what are the tools we need to kind of use. So for instance, I see one of the friends over here, ex-Cisco guys. He left Cisco and kind of started this whole thing. He was leading a cloud practice, WAN clouds, right? So they sort of kind of focused on building an operational tool, which is sort of kind of addressing some of these things, overarching from the operational perspective. And they have, I think, a booth over here as well. But the thing is that if you really kind of see over here that some of the examples what we are giving, these different tools over here, CACT, Zabbix, all of these tools are there, but they're sort of looking at storage or network or compute, right? And everybody's kind of doing their own thing in their own departments. So the thing is, there's the need for correlation, and also think about some simple examples, right? That the CPU is going up, but what's going to do to some of the other services which are being run, right?
Right, and in high CPU utilization, okay, let's say you have high CPU utilization in your workloads and you start spinning up more VMs to that effect, to load balance that. But if you're not correlating that with storage IOPS or network bottlenecks, you're not looking at the whole picture, right? So you are trying to throw more VMs on that, right? So let's move forward. So people and processes, yes. Yeah,
so the other important thing is around people and processes, right? So what are the new job roles and skills which are required to do all of this stuff, right? So there's a way you could kind of get that, I'm just going to get everything from inorganic, from acquire people or get people from those skills, but you have already developed certain teams and now you're trying to develop or deploy this private cloud based on OpenStack. What are some of the skills you can grow with the people who are already in those teams or in the data center teams, right? They've been kind of working on for instance, different multi-vendor products for the longest time, right? How do you kind of grow those skills? What is basically a difference between a cloud architect and if you really if you're kind of deploying a OpenStack Ubuntu cloud, private cloud, then you would need that sort of SME. So understanding those differences, right? A cloud architect, can not really kind of get into the weeds of Ubuntu if they have not worked on it. They have not done that deployment. So those new skills and processes are basically needed. So if these are two examples, right? And if the IP address management issues, we know about all of that stuff, right? So think about it that your developer is spinning up a VM, right? And the conflict happening, and that IP address get assigned to someone else, and all those sort of things. These are real issues which needs to be addressed, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that should be focused is that, for example, something simple as that IP address management, right? If you don't have the right processes in order to do the cleanup behind that, and from an operational perspective, you are setting yourself up for failure. Another thing is that from a people, can you go back? So can you go for the job roles and skills perspective, right? That's also something that we need to have a unified or overarching view, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, go ahead. So governance organizations, how many times have you guys heard that, IT has made changes to the infrastructure, and now I cannot develop my application. Let's swipe a credit card, go to AWS or Azure, right? Sounds familiar, right? And that's exactly what we are trying to address here. That, simply deploying an OpenStack-based cloud, that simply does not mean that, you're going to be successful in your endeavor. You have to make sure that somebody owns the change management, incident management, problem management from an ITIL operational framework perspective. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and another point to kind of keep in mind, that how do you, as a company, if you're kind of leading these, you're looking at these technology transitions, you have the CEOs and CTOs and all that sort of stuff. You were kind of going, I know a lot of people kind of went through Citrix Zen, right? Building a private cloud, but the whole market went towards OpenStack. Now, how do you kind of, because changes are happening so fast, right? Now you see in the last year or so, the whole, the work which is being done on the containers, right? Dockers and containers. How do you kind of keep on aligning and making sure that you're part of this, that you're kind of integrating these new technologies into the whole technology strategy for your company, right?
So net, in summary, right? What we are suggesting is that move away from infrastructure silo-based operational model to a more unified and overarching operational model. And we cannot simply walk away blaming the culture. We need a culture shift. We need a DevOps culture shift. No. You need more, you need to dig a little bit deeper. People say that people, process, technology. You need to go further deeper than that. People, process, technology, people, process, tools, matrix, organization, governance. That's where you're going to have an overarching look across those infrastructure silos. And it's not just the technology components, right? It's also about automation. You cannot have a process, if you define the process and you say that, okay, this is an overarching process, but it's manual, you're again set up for failure. So you have to leverage automation, and you have to leverage automation in the operations.
Yeah, that's one of the, I think, biggest thing what we're already kind of seeing. But again, when we talk about automation, it doesn't have to be it cannot be any longer in the silos that, networking team is doing their automation, that compute and storage are doing their automation. It has to be from the overarching perspective. So I think with that, the team over here must be happy with us, right? Yeah. Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.